To get into her mind and never leave, you need to listen carefully. Forget about begging, chasing, or trying to earn her love. The real secret is something much more profound and powerful. Learning to inhabit her subconscious, become a presence that unsettles her, touching parts of her that she didn't even know existed. When a man enters a woman's mind from a place of true power, nothing can erase him. No message, no silence, no excuse. It's not about being perfect. It's about mastering the invisible art. What isn't said, what isn't given, and what is simply felt. I'm not here to offer empty phrases or fairy tale promises. I'm going to show you how to transform your presence into an emotional brand she can't ignore. From the deep psychological desire Marco Aurelio wrote about, to the energetic attraction no one can fake. I'll guide you from being the man who waits to be chosen to the one who becomes unforgettable. You'll shift from chasing out of anxiety to leaving a lasting mark without even touching her. This is for you, if you're ready to stop begging and start sparking minds. So like this video and subscribe to join the community. Let's get started. Remember, if you don't become unforgettable to yourself first, you'll never be unforgettable to her. Here's a truth no one has told you. You can't stay in someone's mind unless you first inhabit your own with power. Do you want to enter her mind? Do you want to be that man she can't forget? No matter how much time passes or how much she tries to distract herself. If so, you need to deeply understand this. You can't impact a woman's subconscious until you've left an indelible mark on your own. This is where many fail. They try to be remembered without ever choosing themselves first. They chase another person's desire without giving themselves permission to desire their own. They beg for mental crumbs when they haven't even given themselves an emotional feast. As Marco Aurelio said, what is not made conscious manifests in life as destiny. In this case, that destiny is to be forgotten. If you don't become conscious of your greatness, your unique energy, and your story, your presence will leave no mark. It will disappear like a forgotten sigh. Do you want to know when everything changes? It changes when you stop asking, does she like me? And start asking, do I like this version of myself? The energy shifts. You no longer need her to look at you because you can't stop looking at yourself. Your vibration elevates because you become unforgettable to yourself, and that makes you emotionally powerful and dangerous. Stick around because the deepest part is yet to come. A moment arrives when you stop begging and start projecting. You stop pleading and start vibrating. You stop asking for connection and become a frequency that simply cannot be ignored. Let me tell you a real story that perfectly illustrates this. His name is Marcos. For 3 years, he was obsessed with a woman who came and went, who pursued him and desired him, but then disappeared for days or weeks. Marcos lived for every message, every like, and every word. Her silences were deep wounds, until one day, after another sudden absence, she returned and told him, I feel like you're the safe option, but something in me just doesn't activate with you. That sentence destroyed him, but it also woke him up. That night, Marcos cried like never before, but instead of trying to win her back, he asked himself a question. Why am I not unforgettable to her? Then the powerful truth came to him. Because I forgot myself. I erased myself so she would notice me. I dimmed my light so she could shine. From that day on, Marcos stopped trying to be memorable for her and began to be unforgettable for himself. He started working out again, reading every night, writing in his journal, dressing for himself, and looking at himself in the mirror with respect instead of judgment. And the most surprising thing happened. Weeks later, she reappeared. Confused. "I don't know what you did, but I can't get you out of my mind. I feel like I lost you. And I can't stop thinking about you." But by then, Marcos wasn't the same. He had conquered her without chasing her. He had entered her mind only after returning to the center of his own soul. Here is the secret. It's not about doing anything external. You don't need to manipulate, pretend, or be perfect. You just need to remember yourself with such strength and authenticity that your essence vibrates even when you're not there. The female subconscious doesn't attach to a man who begs. It attaches to a man who radiates. It obsesses over the man who didn't give in to anxiety, but acted from a place of power. That is the magnet man. That is the man who enters her mind and never leaves. If you're listening to this, you can be that man too, but only if you first become the most unforgettable person to yourself. Now, get ready, because what's next is even deeper. The second point will show you how the invisible thoughts you have are what ultimately place you in her mind, or erase you without you even knowing. You'll discover that you project even in silence, because what a woman can't stop thinking about is the man who made her feel emotionally dominated without saying a single word. I'm going to take a quick break, but first, I want to ask you something from the heart. I would be so grateful if you would subscribe. This allows me to keep creating these authentic, soulful messages, and it's completely free for you. If you want to keep elevating your energy with this community, subscribe now, and we'll continue with the most powerful part. There's something no woman will ever confess, but it screams in her subconscious, without her knowing. It's not your words. It's not what you did to make her like you. It's not how much you supported her, or how attentive you were. What truly leaves a mark on her, what stays on her skin and in her mind like an invisible tattoo. It's your energy that throws her off balance without you saying a word. Marco Aurelio spoke of the power of the unconscious, a force that transcends rationality. In the game of emotional attraction, this force is activated when you don't try to convince her, but you manage to make her unable to get you out of her mind. You become a vibration that makes her feel small, confused, and full of desire without saying anything. And that to her is unforgettable. That man who enters in silence, who doesn't force anything, who doesn't seek to please, but whose presence is so powerful that she feels something inside her change just from him being there, is the man she can't stop remembering. Let me tell you a story that proves this. His name is Sebastian. Sebastian wasn't the most attentive, the most giving, or the most talkative. In fact, she even said she didn't fully understand him, that he seemed to be hiding something. But every time she tried to pull away, she felt like she couldn't breathe, and when he was near, she felt challenged, as if she couldn't fully decipher him. Why? Because Sebastian never needed to explain himself. He never gave speeches or tried to say, "Look how much I'm worth." He was simply there, being a presence, being himself. He knew exactly what he wanted but didn't chase it. He smiled calmly, but also knew how to hold a silence without feeling uncomfortable. He could be in a room, and everyone would notice him without him seeking attention, and that's what captivated her. That's what kept her thinking about him over and over, even when she was with others, because Sebastian wasn't trying to prove anything to her, and for that very reason, she couldn't stop thinking about everything she never managed to conquer from him. Do you understand what this means? When you don't try to tell her who you are, but manage to make her feel something she's never felt before, you stop being an option. You become an enigma. You become an emotional experience she can't decode. And for the female mind, that is addictive. Stay with me, because what's coming is even more revealing. A woman doesn't attach to what's obvious. but to what challenges her emotional core. She doesn't get stuck with the man who pleases her. She gets stuck with the man who confronts her without raising his voice. The man who, without saying, "I'm leaving," makes her feel she could lose him. The man who, without sending a single message, keeps her thinking about him all day. The man who doesn't need to prove his worth, but forces her to face her deepest fear, not being enough for him. The female unconscious strongly remembers the man who made her feel emotionally dominated effortlessly, without words, because that's where her wound is activated. That's where the impulse to resolve what she never understood awakens, and in that attempt, she gets trapped. That's why the key isn't in how much you seek her, but in how much you make her feel when you're not seeking her. And that isn't achieved by being cold, arrogant, or deliberately distant. It's achieved when you no longer need to make noise to have an impact. When your silence says more than 1,000 conversations. When your peace unsettles her, because she can't touch it. The most potent masculine energy isn't the one that chases. It's the one that observes, the one that doesn't fight to be enough, because it already is. He doesn't enter her life to stay, but when he leaves, she feels that something in her also left. That is the presence that is not forgotten. If you want to enter her mind and never leave, don't try to control her with words. Make her feel dominated without her understanding why. Make her desire you without you having to ask for it. Make her imagine you without fully revealing yourself. Because in that space of emotional mystery, the true unconscious connection is born. And what comes next is even more revealing. In the next point, you'll understand how the unconscious female attachment is activated when she sees in you something she cannot fully possess. That's where her obsession begins. Your absence will torment her more than 1,000 messages. You've been led to believe that to be present in a woman's mind, you have to remind her, text her, call her, send hints, leave clues, and ask her if she still feels the same way. But listen carefully. There is nothing that weighs more on the female unconscious than a well-positioned absence. One that isn't screamed, one that isn't justified, an absence that simply is without being. Because in a world where everyone screams for attention, the true emotional mark is left by the one who quietly withdraws, but whose energy continues to vibrate. It's not about playing a game, it's about knowing your worth. It's about letting the echo of your presence speak louder than any written word. It's about turning your silence into a presence more potent than her own mental noise. Let me tell you a real story that reflects this. His name is Alejandro. Alejandro loved her with all his heart, and she knew it. But there was an overflow in him, that constant need to reconfirm that he was seen, valued, and considered. Every day was a gesture, a message, a reminder. Here I am. Don't ignore me. Until one day, she simply stopped responding. Alejandro felt his world collapse. He clung even more with long messages, unanswered calls, and tears no one saw, until something changed. Not on the outside, but inside him. Alejandro remembered something his therapist had told him, based on the psychology of Marco Aurelio. He who has not cultivated his own value tries to force connections out of lack. That phrase hit him like a lightning bolt, because he understood it wasn't his presence he should prove. It was his absence he should value. That day he didn't write anymore, didn't block her, didn't explain. He just withdrew. Not out of resentment, but from his core. He began to reclaim his energy. Alejandro decided to rebuild himself. He became magnetic to himself again, and that's when the unexpected happened. She came back. but not with a simple hello. She came back disarmed with phrases like, "I haven't been able to get you out of my mind. I miss you without you saying anything. I don't know what you did, but I can't forget you." Why? Because the female unconscious doesn't respond to control. It responds to the vibrational void that is activated when a man stops begging and begins to reign in his own world. Marco Aurelio said it clearly: everything we repress is projected, and what a woman represses when she feels she has truly lost you becomes an obsessive projection. Her mind fills with you without her knowing it. The silence hurts. The image of you haunts her. She asks herself, "Who are you with? Why aren't you looking for me anymore? What changed?" And what changed wasn't on the outside, it was your vibration. What torments a woman isn't that you don't love her, but that you stop showing it without warning, that you're no longer where she always found you, that what was once constant is now silence. But when that silence comes from your inner strength, it has a frequency that lodges itself in her mind, like an emotional hook that doesn't let go. That's how the unconscious mind works. It doesn't attach to what it has all the time. It obsesses over what it can't decode. So if you want to enter her mind and never leave, let mystery do its part. Learn to disappear without drama, to leave with elegance and power, to not be there, and let that move her more than your words. Because when you become a present absence, she begins to look for you in every place you're not. And what she seeks with her mind, but can't find with her eyes, becomes an addiction. This isn't manipulation, this is strategic energetic presence. It's knowing that your energy doesn't lower itself. It positions itself, that your worth isn't begged for. It's vibrated, that your power isn't explained, it's felt. When you understand and integrate this, something in you changes forever. You no longer chase, you no longer try, you no longer explain, you just exist. And that's enough for her soul to remember you even when you no longer think about her. Now stay close, because in the next point, I'll reveal something that completely changes her unconscious perception. It's not what you do that makes you unforgettable. It's how you make her feel when you're not even there. Get ready, because what's coming could become your most powerful weapon. If you want to enter her mind, you have to reflect something to her that she doesn't even understand about herself. There's something no person ever forgets. The person who showed them parts of themselves they didn't even know existed. And for a woman, this is doubly powerful. She may be surrounded by options, attractive, intelligent, even available men, but her mind doesn't get entangled with the obvious. It gets entangled with the symbolic, with what she can't fully decode, with what makes her feel as if she's seeing herself in another body. That's where you become unforgettable. It's not because you said something magnificent or because you became a forced version of yourself, but because without even trying, you reflected a piece of her shadow or a fragment of her soul, and that haunts her. Let me tell you a real story that reveals how this phenomenon works. Sebastian, a deeply observant man focused on his own growth, met Laura during a corporate training. He spoke little, smiled without trying to please, and never sought her attention. In fact, he seemed more interested in taking notes than in connecting. However, one phrase Sebastian said to her when they were barely talking bounced around in Laura's mind for weeks. Sometimes you choose relationships that are really just trying to fill an older void. She didn't know why that phrase affected her. She didn't know it came from a man who wasn't trying to seduce her. But that phrase lit a mirror, because Laura, without understanding it, was trapped by a need for validation that dated back to her childhood. And that man, without intending to emotionally trap her, had shown her her oldest wound with a single phrase. From then on, she couldn't get him out of her head. That's what you do when you enter someone's mind through their subconscious. You don't conquer them with your body or with strategy. You do it with the silent impact of your depth. Marco Aurelio said, "What is not made conscious manifests as destiny." Well, you become that destiny when you make her conscious of something that either confronts or liberates her, without you ever explicitly naming it. That is the greatest power of a magnetic man. It's his ability to enter the other person's psyche, not as an intrusion, but as a revelation. Because you don't invade, you reflect. And what you reflect isn't simple things. They are deep symbols, unhealed pains, unconfessed dreams, needs she can't even put into words. But there's a key point. You can't reflect anything you haven't gone through yourself. You can't awaken a woman if you haven't awakened first. You can't be a mirror if you haven't looked at yourself with brutal honesty. That's why this isn't a trick or an emotional manipulation technique. It's real psychic alchemy energy that vibrates with truth. Do you want to become unforgettable to someone? Then become the person who didn't flatter her, but revealed her. Not from a place of judgment, but from a presence so authentic that she felt safe enough to see herself. And there's the secret. You don't enter her mind because you want to. You enter when she recognizes that you saw her beyond her masks, and you weren't scared. You didn't judge her, and you didn't manipulate her. You simply reflected her, and in that instant, your energy became a symbol, and symbols are never forgotten. In the next point, I'm going to reveal something even deeper. How to make her desire not dependent on your constant presence, but on the psychic imprint you leave, even when you're not there. Is this impacting you? Make sure you stay until the end, because what's coming can change the way you connect forever. If you want to inhabit her mind forever, erase the need to be chosen. This is the most powerful paradox of all. The more you need to be chosen, the more you erase yourself from her mind. The more you wait for a signal, for validation, for proof that she thinks of you, the less you inhabit her subconscious. Because the female unconscious, as Marco Aurelio knew better than anyone, is not attracted to someone who needs her, but to someone who impacts her without needing her. You don't enter her mind when she misses you. You enter when she realizes you could carry on without her. And yes, this breaks many of the models we learned, because since we were young, we were programmed to believe that love is conquered with total devotion, with sacrifice, with absolute emotional availability. The man who stays in a woman's mind isn't the one who gave everything. It's the one who vibrated from his own center, who wasn't dependent on the relationship to feel complete, who was so whole in himself that his very presence challenged her inner world. Do you want to be unforgettable? Then erase from your soul the urgency of being chosen. Eliminate from your thoughts that silent anxiety that asks, does she like me? Does she think about me? Does she miss me? Because as long as that need vibrates within you, your energy loses power, your aura becomes contaminated with lack, and she, even if she doesn't understand it rationally, perceives it. Because all human beings read the emotional field before the words. It's energetic biology. Let me tell you a true story that explains this clearly. Marcus was a brilliant man. He had everything you'd think would make a woman not want to leave him. He was attractive, kind, intelligent, and understanding. But deep down, there was something in him that always vibrated like an unspoken plea. He didn't say it, but his energy screamed, "Please choose me," and that subtle vibration ended up completely erasing him from that woman's mind, because she began to feel that he was emotionally dependent on the relationship, and that killed the magic. Marcus gave her everything but one thing: the mystery of not needing her, and that's where the magnetism died. Now listen carefully. This doesn't mean you should become cold or play games of indifference. It means choosing yourself so much that there's no room to beg to be chosen by another. It means loving yourself so deeply that if someone doesn't see you, you don't question yourself. You simply keep going. Because your worth isn't in whether they love you, but in the fact that you are already love. When you release the desire to be chosen, something changes. Your energy becomes ethereal, strong and clean. You stop vibrating at the frequency of lack, and you elevate to what Marco Aurelio called the integrated self, that state of wholeness where you don't need compliments to be who you are. And then the mystery happens. You begin to inhabit her mind, not because you're chasing her, but because your energy has become archetypal. And archetypes are not forgotten. They stay, they remain, and they mark. Authentic desire is born from freedom, not from need. And the deepest bond a woman can have with you isn't with the one she has, it's with the one she can't get out of her subconscious, even when you're doing nothing to be there, because that's what energetically whole presences do. They stay without forcing it. Marco Aurelio said, "Nothing has a stronger influence on the environment than a person's unworked shadow." And I say to you, nothing inhabits a woman's mind more deeply than the energy of a man who has already chosen himself. So if today you truly want to mark her subconscious, to occupy a sacred place in her memory, her desire, her most intimate thoughts, stop trying to be chosen. Make the most radical act of self-love. Choose yourself. And when that happens, you won't have to do anything. She will remember you, not for what you did, but for what you were. And that version of you, free without emotional hunger, without strategies, will be her greatest addiction. And now that we've reached the end of this journey, you're about to discover the most powerful conclusion of all. Stay with me, because what I'm about to tell you is a truth very few men have integrated, and it will change forever how they see you, desire you, and remember you. Make your energy chase her while you don't. Here is the final secret, the one very few men know, and it radically transforms your presence in a woman's mind without you having to seek her, text her, chase her, or try to convince her of your worth. When you master this, her subconscious begins to seek you out for her, and that is exactly what you need if you want to enter her mind and never leave. You do this by moving with awareness, by closing the chapter without a wound, by choosing your dignity